if you always live in the present, your future might end up looking like your past. If you always live in the present and you're not designing the future, what's going to happen? You're going to get what you've always gotten.
Which one are you? Are you more future-oriented? And if so, you probably have some anxiety about it. Because it can be very stressful to always focus on the future.
Next Level Nation! Welcome back to another very special episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was episode number 1325, the number one place to start seeking feedback today for episode number 1326. Are you living in the past, present, or future? Shout out to, I believe it was the wonderful Jerry Ann of the team who did a post in Next Level Nation that I saw you responded to a couple minutes ago. And I believe the question was something like, let's be silly today, Next Level Nation. If you could have a time machine or you could have what was the other one?
One was time machine. The other one was transportation machine.
Transportation machine. So kind of like I can end up at Jeff's house. Jeff can end up at my house kind of deal. Never
like in an instant.
Yeah, I would never do that. Neither of us, most likely, because,
I wouldn't say never.
Me. You come over?
Yeah.
You come see the cats?
Of course.
You've never been to where I live.
I
probably never will. You may never come to one of my residences again.
I will see your home when you get one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why am I telling you about that post in Next Level Nation? Because I would venture to guess that the majority of people who would say, I would like a time machine to go back into the past are probably living in the past more than somebody who wouldn't say that. I mean, I guess if you want a transportation machine, it's not necessarily living in the present or the future, but I don't know. I think a lot of people have this relationship with their past. You often say, Alan, think of something stupid you did in high school. Okay, have that thought. We all have something that we did that we might regret. The question is, are you living from that place? Are you living from a place of regret, or are you living from a place of the future or the present? I said flum, living flum. This is your episode. Please add some value for the people.
I was on book club, and shout out to Amy L. Amy L on the NLU team, Amy Lenius. She came up with an awesome term that I'm going to end up coining because I'm going to change. So she coined it. And I'm going to change it a little bit and then start using it. Her intention, so in book club, we set intentions after each session. Her intention was to live in the present future sweet spot. And I was like, whoa. And I always read the intentions aloud at the end. And I was like, that's awesome. I'm going to steal that. And I was being playful. I think we all need to live in the past, present, future sweet spot. So of course I complexified it. I tend to do that. But seriously, I have a purpose statement that I have recited every single day for the last 7 or 8 years, actually. And I stopped calling it a prayer. I call it a purpose statement now. But anyways, so I recite it to myself, and in it is a quote about the past, present, and future. It's, I will learn from the past, enjoy the present, but focus on a brighter future for all. That's in the purpose statement. And I think that there's a couple things that happen here. So the first thing is, if you're listening to this, think to yourself, which one are you? Are you more focused on the past? Are you more focused on the present? Or are you more focused on the future? In book club, we do a lot of polls lately. As if we've been doing it. We've started doing a lot of polls. You know me, I dial things up to 11. So we did 4 polls in the last book club session. Poor Christina. She's the virtual event coordinator, and she has to do the polls while I'm being obnoxious. One of the questions was, where do you put your focus more? Past, present, or future? And everyone, checks whichever one. 13% of book club said past. 38% of book club said present. 50% of book club said future. Now, it is a book club, and it's not like a fiction book club. It's a we call it mirror club. We're just joking around because the books we choose are very, very, very challenging. And it's a big mirror. And so I think that book club tends to be more future oriented, but I got a message from one of the book club members that I want to share anonymously here. And she said, thank you for the great book club. I was your past-oriented person. It has been a huge struggle to get out of my past. I am working on it, but there is just so much to deal with and come to terms with. Things just pop up and take me right back to being that out-of-control person who can't escape. Marathon, not a sprint, right? ? Have a great week. And so this person reached out, and again, I'll always keep it anonymous, always. But this person reached out and said I was the person, because I said, is there anyone who wants to volunteer? Because it's an anonymous poll, and I was like, who was the past person? Does anyone want to share? If you don't want to, don't share. Keep your cameras off. If you do, please share. And so she ended up reaching out behind the scenes. But for the listeners, which one are you? Are you more future-oriented? And if so, you probably have some anxiety about it, because it can be very stressful to always focus on the future, okay? Are you very present-oriented, meaning you're probably pretty good at R&R, you're probably pretty good at staying focused, okay? Or are you past-oriented? Because each of these is broken down, Kevin, I'll go quick with this, but if you're focused on the past, you're focused on one of two things. You're either focused on traumas and negative parts of your past, or you're trying to learn from your past. If it's the second one, keep it up. Present. In the present, you're either seeking pleasure or you're building toward a brighter future. So which one are those? And then future, are you worrying about the future? Or are you trying to strategize about the future? And so not only do you have to know whether you're past, present, or future oriented, but you also have to know if it's positive or negative, aka constructive or destructive, because each one of these has a point. It has a positive, constructive thing. Learn from the past, enjoy the present, build toward a brighter future. Great, great, great. But what if you're worrying about the traumas of your past, pleasure seeking in the present, and concerned about the future? That's a very dark place to be. We've all been there to some extent. And hopefully this episode helps.
What do you recommend people do based on where they are? So like if somebody is living in the future, what's the Jeff prescription?
The first thing I'll share is my answer completely depends on what your answer was to the poll. So if you're super future oriented like Emilia, so Emilia is mostly focused on the future, building towards the future, she needs to work on being present sometimes and taking some time to be with herself, to pour into her own cup. If someone is already very present, they actually need to stretch and try to think more about the future and build toward the future more, aka delay gratification. And so it depends. If you're overly focused on the negative aspects of the past, I would say try being present or more focused on the future. If you're only ever focused on the future and you're not ever grateful in the present, you need to focus on gratitude. And whichever one, just make sure you're harmonizing all three. And that's what I would share, is just, we all have all three, but we're all either destructive or constructive in each one. And then, are you in harmony? And it depends on your own unique quality of life that you want. And this will be the last piece that I share to answer your question, Kev. There's one person I'm thinking of who's extremely present focused and who really, their main focus is quality of life. They want to enjoy their life. They want to go dancing, and they want to get ice cream, and they want to go to the beach regularly, and that's their main concern in life, is quality of life. They want to have fun. And that, I do actually think, is more fulfilling for that person than it would be for me. But that person, I think, also would benefit from some future-oriented, goal-oriented direction. And then there's some people, I'll use Emilia as an example, who are extremely goal-oriented, extremely future-focused, who are very, 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 very hardworking, who I think could every now and then benefit from some carefree wandering. But here's the thing. I doubt that would be as fulfilling for her. And I think that that's really the question we should all ask, is what mix, what chicken soup mix? You got chicken, you got broth, you got noodles. Do you have too much noodles? Do you have too much chicken? Do you have too much broth? What's your own unique soup? And that would be my answer.
What do you think mine is? I find that lately I've been living way more in the future. I think present. Sorry, no, I would say I've been living more in the future than the present, but I think I tend to do pretty well, like 70% present, 30% future.
Yeah. I would say for you, Kev, I think more future would benefit you because as you increase belief and as you grow. I think that too much future orientation for someone who's not super grown up, for lack of better phrasing, is dangerous. But I would say you're way more future oriented than you've ever been, and I think that's actually constructive. And I think that you're way less present focused than you've ever been, which makes perfect sense. And then you reflect on the past for gratitude and to see how far you've come. I think you have a positive relationship with all three. I think you need to, I want to share this authentically with the listeners. It's because of his goals. I mean, I know your goals. I mean, with your goals, you're in trouble if you don't future orient more. There's no way. So if you want to achieve your goals, you have no choice but to focus on the future even more and to delay the gratification in the present even more. And
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and whether or not that's fulfilling for you, you'll have to dial in as you go. And it's a sliding scale.
That's one of the interesting things. It's almost like if you see this, right? And I've fallen, I don't want to say victim. I've experienced this as well. You're living in the present and you don't necessarily have a future goal. Eventually something happens where you create a future goal and then you realize in the present, oh my goodness, I have to change everything in order to live in the future now. I have to change my present to actually get the goal I want in the future. You see that a lot with like finances. It's like,
Can you go deeper into that? That's gold.
It's
What's
like
an example?
Debt. Debt's a really good example where it's almost like, and again, don't take this as advice, especially financial advice, but somebody might not be thinking that much about their debt and acquiring more debt. And then they say, you know what? I'm going to buy a house. I want to buy a house next year. That debt now matters way, 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 way more than it did before. Now, because of what you decided in the future, you have to change the way you live in the present. And I think but if you had that, well, in 5 years, I'm going to buy a house. So I probably want to start paying off my debt now. So in 4 years, when I start getting, approved for a house, that's an interesting thing. When we were having this preamble before this, I like to come up with quotes because I think quotes are powerful. And I told Alan, I said, well, if you always live in the present, your future might end up looking like your past. If you always live in the present and you're not designing the future, what's going to happen? You're going to get what you've always gotten. And for many of us, our past is going to come back around, fortunately or unfortunately. I guess that depends on the past, but it's probably not going to be as constructive as if you were creating the future that you want.
What was it like in the past when you were not future oriented?
It's weird. It's weird because I know they say ignorance is bliss, and sometimes I think it is. Because when you don't know, you don't know. I think I look back to some of the easiest times I had in life, micro easy, like easy in the short term. It's like I would say, like, where am I going this week? Okay, I'm going to New Jersey for 4 days to work. I'll be home 9 p.m. on Friday. What am I doing on the weekend? Oh, I'm hanging out with this person. All right, cool. That's it. That's done. And I want to make $100,000 this year. Those are kind of the two. Other than that, there really wasn't much else at the time.
So
but I
what
didn't
do you
think.
Focus on?
What did I focus on?
Mm-hmm.
Just getting through it. Just get the next day.
Now, what do you recommend? Because that came at a price. And if you knew the price, you might not have paid it, type of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Hello, my name is Eddie Pinero. I'm the founder of Your World Within, and I wanted to take a second and just express how valuable working with Alan has been. His ability to help me create clarity and maintain focus on my big picture goals has been huge. He's been a huge asset with the roadmap as well, the day-to-day things, the little things that we sometimes overlook. I think anyone looking to, grow themselves, grow a business or both, would truly benefit from having Alan as an ally along the way. Again, great mind, but more importantly, solid dude.
I would say, and again, this is a fine line, it's hard. If you're thinking about what you want to feel in the present, I would ask how that's actually going to feel in the future. So just as an example, I've been talking to Alan for months, I don't know, maybe a year now, of like, I'm ready for a new car. It's time for me to upgrade my vehicle to something somewhat expensive. I'm ready. It's time. Financially, we're there. Let's do it. And Alan's, checks and balances. Kev, it's not time. We could do it. It's not the smartest thing. And you and I have our constructive back and forths. But I also had a moment where I told Taryn, I was like, I don't know. Even if Alan said, do it now, I don't know if it's time. Like, I don't know if I'm ready. Because what happens in a year and a half when I want to make a different decision and I didn't factor in the $600 a month car payment? Then what? I'll regret that. That's the interesting thing, is like, if you are future focused and you make a decision in the present that hurts you in the future, then you'll regret it. And then you'll live in the past and say, shoot, I really wish I thought about it more. So it would be that. It would be, what emotion or need am I looking to get met now? And what is the potential downside of that? Because there is a effect that will come because of this. Something will happen. I don't know yet. I mean, are we going to be in a different place in a year and a half financially? Sure, absolutely. But do I know what that looks like? No, not really. So
where do you go from there? If you're already going to get a really, really, really nice car, what's the next level?
Really, 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 really nice.
Right. And then what's the responsibility that comes underneath that? And do you want the responsibility as well as the...
Right.
Last question. This is good because I think I've always been pretty future-oriented, and so it's hard for me to kind of share this in a way that will land for people who aren't. Anyone who's future-oriented is probably like, yeah, makes perfect sense. How are you living now? Like, what is it like now?
Yeah, we had this conversation today. We were talking about clients and what do you do when you lose a client? Like, what's your process? When a client says, hey, this isn't working, or hey, I've achieved my goals, whatever, right? Clients leave for many different reasons. And you said, I search for the reason, I learn the lesson, and then I move on. And that's what I've tried to get to the point where, again, I don't know if I said this on this podcast, I'm trying to balance everything matters more than anything else currently, but also nothing matters at all. Because eventually, if we just keep doing what we're doing, one client today leaving us doesn't matter at all, as long as I get the lesson. Where in the past, it would be like, oh my goodness, everything is burning down. I'm the worst. I'm stupid. My present would get so cloudy.
What changed?
I don't have time perspective. You've helped me a ton, obviously. I don't know. It's that understanding that, yeah, if today was the last day in business and somebody came and said, all right, let's tally up how many clients you have. You lost a client since last time. That really sucks. Versus in 5 years, let's do this. I don't know who I was coaching 5 years ago. I do, obviously, but in the mindset of like, I don't remember who left me and why they left. It doesn't run my life now. So why should I let what happens now run my life in 5 years? Might as well just take the lesson and get on with it. Easier said than done, of course.
The only deeper layer I'd go, and I know we got to jump soon, is the lesson. As long as you take the lesson, that losing of that client will actually gain you 10 more.
Yeah, that's fair.
Or keep you from losing 10 more. You know what I mean? So as long as you find out the accurate root cause, it's like, I wish I had a good example of this. Oh, okay, here's a good one. I used to get sinus infections all the time. And that was a really dark time for me. Tail end of high school, early college, I used to go to the allergist. I had this whole thing. And I'd get allergy shots every other week. And I kept getting sick, CAT scans, and it was horrible. Again, horrible relatively speaking. I wasn't like dying or anything. But I was very, very quality of life affected. And in hindsight, I know, I wasn't hydrating well and I was drinking too much alcohol for sure back in college. So there was that as well. But what we eventually found out is that I'm allergic to dust mites. and there's dust everywhere, particularly in dorms. And so, yeah. So I figured out, oh, okay, so my nose is always clogged because dust mites are year round. Because I always thought of allergies as like seasonal. Mm. And then once we figured that out, we went to the clinic in New Hampshire that Kevin, you've gone to because you were allergic to cats. I was allergic to cats too. Now we both have cats, not allergic at all, right? Mm. Unbelievable. So once you understand the root cause, dust mites, now I breathe amazing. And I solved that one little thing. Not only are my sinuses better, but now I sleep better. Now I have better workouts. Now I can help you when you come to me. Right? There's a lot more benefits to the loss than people realize in the feeling of the loss. And I think that's why I love failure so much, is because there's so much future gain. Failure has no present gain. Mm-mm. There's no present gain in failure. The present is terrible with failure. So maybe we should have made that more clear. I should have made that more clear.
Well, I could.
Yeah. Failure is terrible in the present. That's the worst.
Yeah.
But it's so beneficial to your future, assuming you keep going and assuming you take the lessons. AKA learn from it. And so hopefully that lands for all the listeners in a way that it hasn't before. And then one last piece is when you do get a new lesson, now you can reprocess your past from that frame and then reinvest that into the future. It's not like you don't start over. So Kev, I could literally take everything away from Kev, take away all his money, take away all his clothes, take away everything, and drop him in the middle of Worcester or Boston or anywhere. He would just go win at a way higher level than he ever would have before, because you know how to do all this. You'd start another podcast. You know what I mean? You'd start another business. You'd get more clients. Like, you know how to do it. It's not like, now, would you be able to catch up to us? No. Right. Because we already have momentum. But you would be way better off than you were before.
Well, and I want to make this clear too. And hopefully you could sense it. If you're watching or listening, you could sense it even the way I said it. This is all very new to me. This perspective and this feeling and this certainty, and it's very strange still for me to understand that. That's why I asked Alan today. That was a question I asked, is like, what do you do? And this was just a hypothetical question, just so I can understand you. I mean, you and I have been in business together 6 years. Like, what is your process internally when you lose a client? Like, how does that work for you? Do you go right to the future? Do you go to the past? So this is something that's very new to me, and it's something I'm kind of learning as I go too. So I just want to make sure, because that never would have resonated with me, especially early in the journey, where what I said was like, well, I'm trying to balance everything matters more than anything ever, but also nothing matters at all. That, I know if I heard that in the beginning, I'd be like, that isn't real and it doesn't make sense. I very much understand, but I also understand that at a deeper level than I ever have. So I just want to make that clear.
Remember, Kev, you and I were in the gym way back, and you, back then, he'd be squatting with 3 plates on each side, which is what?
315.
315, and he would pause at the bottom. He'd be like 7 reps in it, and he'd just sit at the bottom, which to me was like, no. If you lose upward momentum on that bottom, you're not getting up for me with that much weight. And I remember I asked you one time, I forget where we were traveling. It's like a big
Florida.
gym. Yeah, Florida. And I said, how do you know for sure that you're going to come up from that? And you're like, because I've done it so many times before. Yep. And I said that, I think that's kind of what this is. You know that you can do it, so you're not concerned when you lose a client.
Yeah. Fair.
You're not afraid to fail because you know even if you do, you're going to get the weight up, even if you don't get it up perfectly. And I hope that can be an analogy. This is why skill development and learning is so powerful, because you can redeploy it anytime you want. It's once you get 40 clients, now you know how to do it. Now, momentum's important, brand is important, business is important, the compound effect is important, but skills monetize forever. Skills, I'm never going to suddenly not know how to be vulnerable in my intimate relationship. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas in my early 20s, I didn't know. And through failure, I learned the value of vulnerability, and now I can deploy that in my relationship now. And so my marriage, when I get married, will be 1,000,000 times better than it would have been because of all those past failures. And I wonder if people correlate failure with a better future.
I think it's belief. You have to have the belief. If you don't have self-belief, like you said, it sucks in the moment. It's almost like, I learned how to make fire, but now everything I love is on fire. And I don't realize that 10 years from today, I'll be able to make a nicer, more aligned, warmer, safer fire. Because right now it's just not great.
Yeah,
I
it
understand.
feels like fire. Yeah,
Yeah.
it does feel terrible.
It does.
That's fair.
Yeah, failure sucks.
But it sucks less when you know it's not permanent.
We had somebody asked me recently. They said, how have you dealt with so much failure? And I said, Alan and I just laugh now. Not that we don't take it seriously, but my first reaction is just to laugh my butt off because I need to. I need to get that stuff out. When we didn't do such a good training at Wisconsin, like we laughed about it on the car ride home. We were just dying. Not because we didn't take it seriously or not because we wanted to minimize the feedback, but it was more like, yeah, we're here again. Okay. We're never going to be beyond this. This is never going to be behind us, so yeah.
I quote Kev after one of our group coaching sessions. I quote Kev. It's me, him, and Jesse, and Jesse's the assistant coach. And by the way, I want to preface this. It was still an excellent session.
Yes.
But at the very end, we had some feedback about the app, and the app got some negative feedback. I essentially asked on the session, I said, okay, awesome session, fulfillment, great. Who here is like totally good with the app? Like totally fine. They know how to track their habits. Everything's good. And not a single hand went up.
No, we got some after. I think it was
we got some after.
I think it was 1 or 2 out of the 10.
But in the post, feedback session with me, Kevin, Jesse, we do it on WhatsApp and it's audio and speakerphone. And Kevin says, and Jesse, that's what you call taking an L. And dude, in the past, that would have rocked you.
For sure.
And now it's like, okay, we got to make the app better. It's all good.
Oh, and there's another.
We're already working on it.
Yeah, and there's another session 2 weeks from today. That. But again, that is balancing what's going on in the present and saying, oh, this is how it'll play out in the future. And that is a skill that takes time. And again, is something that's relatively new to me. So I don't want anybody to feel bad if they don't think that. What can I help you with?
Now let's plug the app.
You can plug the app.
Not the best plug for optimal.
You'd think when you sunk a fair amount of money into it, it would be seamless. But again, that's a really good example of anything, right? Everything fails. Every single thing on the planet fails. And then you take that as an opportunity to make it better. Next Level Nation. I believe when are you listening to this? You're listening to this on Thursday. As you are listening to this, Alan and I are recording a new free course, completely free, will not cost you a dime, how to level up your self-belief and self-worth. We have realized through the data and coaching, looking at Next Level Nation, looking at what episodes do the best, that self-belief and self-worth are 2 of the biggest struggles of this community. So we can't think of a better free course to deliver to you. Keep your eyes and ears out. I don't know when it's going to come out yet, but we will keep you in the loop. It will be on the website, and it's going to be the best course we have ever created.
Free 99.
Free 99.
Free 99. If it's free, it's for me, is what you say?
Yeah.
If it's free?
I didn't come up with that. Somebody else much smarter than I did. Yeah.
That course is built on what we believe to be the fundamental core of what is required for you to succeed. If you don't have self-belief, you are going to have a really hard time. And if you don't have self-worth, you're going to have a really hard time. So we want to teach you to figure out where you're at, self-belief and self-worth, and we want to teach you how to build it. Because after that, you're going to be the most empowered version of yourself. Speaking of empowered, we have finished our last book in book club, Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess by Dr. Caroline Leaf. That was a tough one, but a good one. I did the final vote. I tallied the final vote last night. We're recording this on Monday, so last night, Sunday night, and I announced the new book. The new book, 50% of the vote. 50% of the vote went to this book, yeah. Won by a landslide. By a landslide. How Emotions Are Made by Lisa Barrett. So I'm sitting down with Emilia one night on the couch. We're eating numbins. That's what we call food, numbins. Nibbles, numbins. And I said, if you could only give your high school self one book and you could never read another book, which book would you choose? This is the book she chose. So I have no doubt that it will be super, super valuable for everyone. Book club every Saturday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The link to register will be in the show notes. Get your book. Even if you don't get your book in time, it's okay. You can still join us, and I hope to see you there.
And tomorrow for episode number 1327, are you always going to be run by a fear? Alan and I on Mondays, we usually have very deep talks before we do these episodes, and that was something that came up, and I realized a couple things. One, I know what my fear is, but I don't actually know what it is. And we went deeper on that. So that's going to be a very hyper-conscious episode. If you feel like you are being run by a fear, check it out. If you don't think you're being run by a fear, you probably are. So check it out anyway. That's the sales pitch for that. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Find that past, present, future sweet spot. Next Level Nation.